The chamber where the Galactic Council gathered had never felt so heavy with silence. 47 civilizations, the brightest minds across known space, sat paralyzed as holographic images displayed the Vex Kari war vessels closing in on our frontier settlements. Grand Ambassador Zaloth broke the stillness, his tone thick with bitter irony that crossed every language barrier. "Marvelous," he said. 10,000 years building peace and pushing science forward, and now we're facing extinction from creatures that act like cosmic insects. I'm Trazax, representing the Quillian Federation as third-ranked diplomat, and I couldn't sit still. The Vex Kari weren't something you could joke about. These beings devoured everything in their path. Worlds, satellites, rocky debris, orbital platforms. Their colossal ships tore apart all substance into its smallest pieces and transformed it into copies of themselves. Evil wasn't the right word for them. They just existed to multiply. The problem was we existed too, and that didn't matter to them at all. Ambassador Zura from the Aminar Syndicate, "Tell us about our fighting strength," said Prime Counselor Norix, her top forearm shaking with nerves. Zura rose to speak, her glowing skin flickering with distress. "Our united forces met the Vex Kari at 7 battle zones. We've lost 83% of our largest warships. What remains has pulled back to Sentry Hub, but our predictions show less than 12% odds of blocking their primary assault." 12%. Ambassador Plex let out a laugh that sounded empty as it bounced around the room. "I can remember stressing over trade taxes with the Beltoran Mercantile Union. Simpler days, right?" "Save your nostalgia," Ambassador Krex snapped back, his lizard-like face twisted seriously. "We need answers, not memories of better times. I observed the galaxy's finest intellects arguing without purpose. The Beltoran wanted talks, ignoring 17 failed attempts already. The Jurgen Collective suggested vanishing into folded dimensions, overlooking how the Vex Kari had equipment to find dimensional tiers. The Zolirans wanted to release a manufactured plague, forgetting these creatures weren't living things in any normal way. There's one possibility nobody's mentioned," Ambassador Ekna said so softly the room nearly missed it. The elderly Virian seldom contributed at meetings, but her words always commanded attention. "What possibility?" Prime Counselor Norix demanded. Ekna's clouded eyes somehow locked onto the center platform with piercing focus. "We could reach out to the humans for assistance." Chaos erupted instantly. Half the delegates voiced outrage while the rest called for clarity. I sat motionless, shocked by what I'd just heard. Humans. The species we'd agreed to isolate 2 centuries back. The species labeled too risky for galactic membership. "Have you lost your mind?" Ambassador Krex bellowed, his ritual necklace spreading wide. "The humans? We might as well destroy our own worlds and spare the Vex Kari the effort." "They're clever problem solvers," Ekna responded with steady calm. "They're savage," and Krex fired back. "They went from splitting atoms to building atom bombs in under 3 years. Their whole timeline is marked by killing their own kind." Ambassador Zill spoke up. "True. And picture what they'd do against an enemy threatening not just their territories but their whole species." This made everyone pause. I caught myself pulling up our sparse files on humans. Most civilizations followed predictable advancement: farming, writing, machines, advanced tools, spaceflight, faster-than-light travel. Humans? They jumped from their first airplane to walking on their moon in 66 years, from understanding nuclear splitting to working reactors in 5 years. From theorizing genetic blueprints to altering them in under 100 years. They were frighteningly flexible, inventive, and impossible to predict. When we found them, Ekna continued into the hushed chamber, they'd already survived 2 planet-wide conflicts and created weapons capable of making their world unlivable. Yet they'd also made artwork that brought our research crews to tears. Crafted music that stirred feelings even in species with no sound-based art traditions, and written stories that somehow connected across totally different evolutionary histories. "They're walking contradictions," someone murmured. "They're hazardous," Krex maintained. "There's a reason we put alert signals around their star system." "Yes," Prime Counselor Norix said slowly. "But maybe right now hazardous is exactly what we require." I ended up assigned to the mission. Not because I was qualified, but simply because I'd recently organized our limited human cultural and biological data. That and no senior diplomat wanted the job. If things turned ugly with the humans, better to lose a third-tier nobody like me. Our vessel dropped from faster than light at the edge of the solar system. The warning signals remained active. broadcasting identical messages in 2,000 tongues. Warning, quarantined species. Stay away. Strange, isn't it? Captain Lorax said as we passed the beacons. We placed these to shield the galaxy from them. Now we're hoping they'll shield the galaxy from something worse. Our small diplomatic craft approached the fourth world, Mars. Humans had built settlements there, based on our distant monitoring. Better to make initial contact away from their birth world, our superiors decided. If things went sideways, at least Earth would be protected. Incoming message, our communications officer announced, sounding startled. It's in flawless galactic standard. How's that even possible, I asked. We've never made contact. Play it, ordered Ambassador Kizison, leading our desperate mission. A human face filled our display. Female, I thought, though I wasn't completely certain. Their gender differences were subtle compared to other species. Welcome, visitors, she said. I'm Director Maya Quinn of the Mars Colonial Defense Force. We've been waiting for you. Ambassador Kizison's mouth clicked in shock. You've been waiting for us? Absolutely, she answered with a slight upward curve of her lips. We spotted your ship the instant it crossed into our system. Actually, we've known about the galactic community for roughly a century. This couldn't be real. Our isolation had been flawless. No interaction, no signals, nothing that would reveal intelligent life beyond their world. How? Ambassador Kizison barely managed. We listen, she stated plainly, and we observe and we study. Your spy satellites. We infiltrated them years ago. Your warning signals? We broke the codes. Your research ships hovering just outside our system. We've been tracking their transmissions. I felt all four of my hearts racing wildly. This was terrible. Extremely terrible. Please don't look so panicked, Director Quinn said, and I realized she meant me specifically. If we'd wanted to break through your quarantine, we would have already. We've honored your choice even though we don't support it. But let's not pretend this is our first meeting. Now, why don't you explain why the Galactic Council has finally decided to knock on our door? The landing area of the Mars Colonial Defense Headquarters held more humans than I'd anticipated seeing. They studied our group with open curiosity as we were guided through shining hallways to a meeting room. Director Quinn waited for us alongside several other humans wearing various uniforms. She presented them as General Teo Ibuki, Dr. Layla Jackson, and Ambassador Connor O'Malley. Ambassador? I questioned before thinking. Yes, O'Malley answered with a sound I'd later discover was called a chuckle. We've maintained an off-world diplomatic division ready for nearly 50 years. Optimistic, I know, but we prefer being prepared. Once everyone sat, Ambassador Kizison detailed our terrible situation, the Vex Kari danger, our military defeats, and the coming destruction facing all advanced species. Throughout the briefing, I studied the humans carefully. They displayed none of the terror or alarm that had gripped the Galactic Council. Instead, they appeared intrigued, almost eager. When Ambassador Kizison concluded, Director Quinn nodded with thought. So you've come asking for our assistance against an enemy that your united forces, representing 47 advanced spacefaring civilizations, cannot stop. An enemy that has already wiped out hundreds of your worlds and shown zero interest in talking or bargaining. That's accurate, said Ambassador Kizison, his voice showing our desperation. And you quarantined us because you considered us too aggressive and unpredictable, General Ibuki stated, his expression blank. The quarantine was a safety measure, Ambassador Kizison said cautiously. Dr. Jackson laughed, a quick, sharp sound. A safety measure. That's diplomatic language for we were terrified of you, isn't it? Nobody answered, which said everything. Well, Ambassador O'Malley said, leaning back, it appears the galaxy needs our specific skills after all. You'll assist us? I asked, unable to hide my surprise. Of course we'll assist, Director Quinn said as if nothing could be more obvious. We're humans. Fighting impossible battles is basically our species' favorite pastime. As our group left the conference room, I walked beside Dr. Jackson. Why? I asked her. Why would you assist us when we separated your species from the galactic community? She looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. You know what's amusing about humans? We adore a good comeback story, especially when we get to play the heroes. But the danger is massive, I said. She finished for me. Devastating even. That's what makes it intriguing. Intriguing? I repeated, confused. Absolutely, she answered. You see, Trazak's humans have an expression. May you live in interesting times. It's actually meant as a curse. But honestly, we flourish in interesting times. We've spent our entire evolutionary past adjusting to one disaster after another. Ice ages, massive volcanic eruptions, space rock impacts, diseases, climate changes, everything imaginable, we've endured it. Compared to our own timeline, this Vex Kari danger is just another Tuesday. I didn't grasp the reference, but her confidence felt both comforting and frightening. Within hours, human ships were being readied for launch. Not just military craft, I noticed, but civilian vessels too. Mining operations, scientific explorers, even what looked like converted freight haulers. When I questioned this, General Ibuki explained their approach. The Vex Kari consume everything, correct? Transform matter into duplicates of themselves. Well, two can play that strategy. Our mining ships can dismantle asteroids faster than they can. Our manufacturing units can repurpose materials instantly, and every human ship commander has something the Vex Kari lack. What's that? I asked. Imagination, he answered with a hunting smile, and a fierce desire to challenge themselves against worthy adversaries. You've released something you don't completely comprehend, Trazax. I hope you're ready for what follows. As I watched hundreds of human craft prepare for departure, I wondered if we'd made a horrible mistake. But with the Vex Kari advancing, what option remained? Prime Counselor Norix's words repeated in my thoughts. Perhaps what we need right now is dangerous. The humans were definitely that. The question remained, dangerous to whom? The human armada left the solar system with remarkable speed. Within 24 Earth hours, they'd gathered a force exceeding 3,000 ships. I monitored their operations from aboard the Phoenix Dawn, the human command vessel led by Admiral Elena Reyes, a woman whose relaxed manner hid the sharp intelligence in her gaze. You appear surprised by how quickly we responded. Admiral Reyes observed as I stared at the tactical screen showing the enormous human fleet. My species would require months to assemble such a force, I confessed. The Galactic Council spent 16 days just agreeing to send our diplomatic team to you. No disrespect to your council, Admiral Reyes said, but 16 days of discussion while settlements are being consumed seems wasteful. Discussions happen while problems are being solved, not before. Yet your people unified instantly, I noted. I was told humans were divided and inclined toward internal disputes, Admiral Reyes laughed. Oh, we absolutely are. Right this moment, there are at least 7 major disagreements about tactical methods for this operation. The difference is we're debating while we travel toward the enemy, not before we depart. This was my first glimpse into what humans termed multitasking, their strange capacity to pursue multiple actions at once. Where most species contemplated, deliberated, then acted, humans seemed to do everything simultaneously, often while also engaging in what they called casual conversation. So what's your approach against the Vex Kari? I asked. Your fleet is impressive, but the Council has already lost thousands of advanced battleships. The corners of Admiral Reyes's mouth lifted slightly. The Council fought traditionally. We don't intend to do that. What do you mean? You'll witness it at Century Hub, she answered mysteriously. Your people are still defending there, right? I nodded, barely. Our most recent intelligence suggests they have perhaps 3 days before the Vex Kari main force arrives. Then we'll arrive in 2, she stated with complete certainty. True to her promise, the human fleet reached Century Hub 48 hours later, using faster-than-light drive setups that our scientists had considered theoretically unachievable. The surviving galactic defense forces welcomed the human armada with mixed relief and worry. High Admiral Z of the Jurgen Collective, the highest military authority of the combined galactic forces, appeared visibly shocked when Admiral Reyes and her command team teleported aboard his craft for a planning meeting. Your ships move strangely, he commented, his 7 eyes blinking one after another. Our sensors struggled tracking your approach paths. We've adjusted standard faster-than-light theory, explained the human chief science officer. Dr. Prisha Patel. Nothing overly complex, just artificially creating quantum superposition in the drive system while simultaneously producing a localized time distortion field. I watched the galactic military commanders exchange bewildered looks. These ideas weren't foreign to them, but the casual manner humans discussed bending reality's fundamental forces was unsettling. Never mind the technical aspects, Admiral Reyes interrupted. We need to plan battle strategy. The Vex Kari will arrive within 24 hours. High Admiral Z gestured to the holographic display showing the incoming enemy armada. We've arranged our remaining ships in a standard protective perimeter around the hub. With your forces, we might hold them back long enough for the evacuation to finish. Evacuation? Admiral Reyes frowned. We didn't travel here to retreat. The Vex Kari fleet outnumbers our combined forces nearly 3-1, Zay explained patiently, as if addressing a tactical beginner. Even with your ships, victory is mathematically unachievable. The human general, Amara Jackson, commanding their ground troops, stepped forward. With respect, Admiral Zay, humans have a lengthy record of achieving mathematically unachievable victories. How? Z demanded. By altering the parameters of the equation, Dr. Patel replied with a grin showing too many teeth to seem friendly. What followed was the most unconventional battle planning meeting in galactic warfare history. The humans didn't just challenge established military principles, they dismissed them completely. They suggested tactics ranging from unusual to apparently suicidal. And throughout, they maintained strange lightheartedness, making jokes about pulling a Thermopylae or going full Inchon. Historical references meaningless to galactic officers, but inspiring fierce approval among the humans. This is madness, High Admiral Zay muttered after the humans outlined their primary approach. Possibly, Admiral Reyes admitted. But as a human thinker once stated, insanity is repeating the same actions while expecting different outcomes. Your traditional tactics have failed against the Vex Kari 43 times. Perhaps madness is precisely what's needed. The Vex Kari arrived exactly when forecast. Their enormous world ships, each matching a small moon's size, emerged from faster-than-light travel, surrounded by clouds of harvester craft. I watched from the Phoenix Dawn's observation area as the enemy approached, unstoppable, relentless, and fearless. Magnificent, aren't they? Said a voice nearby. I turned to find Commander Felix Navarro, the ship's tactical officer, studying the enemy with apparent appreciation. You find them attractive? I asked, disbelieving. In the way a flawless hunter is attractive, he clarified. They've evolved or engineered themselves into the ultimate consuming machine. No inefficiency, no hesitation, no compassion. And this impresses you? Commander Navarro smiled. It makes them predictable, and predictable enemies can be beaten. As the Vex Kari closed distance, the human fleet performed maneuvers that violated conventional space battle tactics. Rather than forming a defensive wall, they dispersed into seemingly chaotic patterns. Small squadrons darted toward the massive Vex Kari vessels only to swerve away at the final moment. Others appeared to fly in deliberate patterns making zero tactical sense whatsoever. What are they doing? High Admiral Z demanded over the communication channel. Drawing their focus, Admiral Reyes replied calmly, and mapping their reaction patterns. For nearly an hour, the human fleet engaged in this strange ballet, taking minimal casualties while dealing negligible damage to the enemy. The galactic forces maintained their positions as instructed, though their communications revealed growing confusion and frustration. Then Admiral Reyes gave the command. Execute Operation Trojan Horse. The scattered human craft suddenly merged into tight groupings. But rather than attacking the Vex Kari directly, they targeted specific coordinates in empty void. Hundreds of projectiles launched simultaneously, exploding at precisely calculated locations. What are they hitting? I asked, puzzled. There's nothing there. Oh, but there is, Commander Navarro replied with clear satisfaction. The Vex Kari use quantum entanglement for fleet communication. Those coordinates are their signal hubs, invisible to normal sensors. But Dr. Patel's crew identified them based on the energy variations during our probing maneuvers. The effect was instant and dramatic. The perfectly coordinated Vex Kari swarm fell into chaos. Ship formations scattered as individual craft lost connection with the central command network. Now, Phase 2, Admiral Reyes commanded. The human mining and cargo craft, which had remained at the battle's edge until now, suddenly rushed forward. But instead of firing weapons, they deployed massive electromagnetic nets between themselves, creating a web that trapped dozens of smaller Vex Kari ships. Those aren't combat vessels, I said, confused. No, they're salvage ships, Commander Navarro explained. The Vex Kari consume everything. Well, now we're consuming them. Those nets will disrupt their molecular structure, essentially converting them into raw resources. For what purpose? The answer came as automated human factories followed behind the salvage craft. As they gathered the disrupted Vex Kari matter, they started manufacturing projectiles. Thousands upon thousands of projectiles using the enemy's own substance against them. You're weaponizing their biomass. I realized with growing wonder. Poetic, isn't it? Commander Navarro said. They wanted to devour us. Instead, we're recycling them. The battle's momentum shifted dramatically. The disrupted Vex Kari formation struggled to reorganize while the human fleet pressed their advantage with brutal efficiency. The projectiles crafted from Vex Kari matter proved particularly effective, bypassing the enemy's protective systems as though recognized as friendly. Yet the three largest Vex Kari world ships remained untouched, their massive hulls resistant to traditional attacks. They continued their unstoppable advance toward Century Hub, adaptive barriers absorbing everything launched at them. The big ones aren't taking damage, I pointed out, anxiety returning to my voice. We noticed, Admiral Reyes said, joining us on the observation deck. Time for Phase 3. Commander Navarro, signal the sleight of hand squadron. A small cluster of human vessels broke from the main fleet and accelerated toward the massive world ships. They differed from the others, sleeker, with minimal weapon systems but oversized engines. Civilian science vessels, Admiral Reyes explained, noting my questioning expression. Specifically, our top xenobiology research ships. You're sending researchers into the battle's heart? I asked, horrified. Who better to understand a biological being than biologists? She replied. Watch. The science vessels deployed what looked like small devices that attached to the world ship's hulls. For several long moments nothing appeared to happen, then gradually the massive Vex Kari vessels began slowing. What's happening? I asked. Those aren't devices, Admiral Reyes said. They're genetic resequencers. Dr. Patel's team analyzed the Vex Kari biological patterns and determined they function on a hive mind concept with shared consciousness. Those tools are introducing a modified version of their own genetic code back into their network. You're reprogramming them? More like confusing them, she clarified. Imagine suddenly having thoughts that aren't yours, urges that contradict your basic nature, the equivalent of an autoimmune disorder on a fleet-wide scale. I watched in amazement as the mighty world ships began turning on each other. The largest started consuming its smaller companions, its harvesting arms ripping into the very fleet it had commanded moments before. That's horrifying, I whispered. Yes, Admiral Reyes agreed seriously, but so is extinction. The Battle of Century Hub continued another 6 hours, but the outcome was never uncertain again. By the time the final Vex Kari vessel had been neutralized or captured for examination, the combined human galactic fleet had lost less than 15% of their forces, a miracle by any measure. As the victorious armada regrouped, I found myself in a quiet hallway of the Phoenix Dawn, attempting to process what I'd witnessed. The humans hadn't merely fought. They'd adapted, innovated, and conquered in ways that defied traditional understanding of warfare. Overwhelming, isn't it? Said a voice. I turned to find Director Maya Quinn, who'd joined the fleet from Mars shortly before the battle. Your people fight like nothing I've ever witnessed, I confessed. We don't fight to win battles, she explained. We fight to survive extinction events. It's encoded in our DNA from thousands of generations of ancestors who refused to die when the odds said they should. The Galactic Council feared this aspect of humanity, I said. Your unpredictability, your capacity for aggression. Perhaps they were right to quarantine your species. Director Quinn considered this thoughtfully. Perhaps. Or perhaps they should have feared our absence more than our presence. 3 weeks later, I stood before the Galactic Council chamber once more, but this time I wasn't alone. Beside me stood Ambassador O'Malley, representing Earth in an official capacity for the first time in history. The quarantine of the solar system is hereby officially removed, declared Prime Counselor Norix. Humanity has earned its position among the galactic community. The chamber erupted in applause, genuine this time, not the polite political acknowledgement I was used to. As we walked out together, Ambassador O'Malley wore an expression I'd learned to recognize as contemplative. You don't seem entirely pleased, I observed. Acceptance is a double-edged sword, he replied. Now comes the difficult part, which is proving we deserve it, he said. Saving the galaxy from the Vex Kari was relatively straightforward. They were trying to kill us, so we stopped them. But building lasting peace, contributing to galactic civilization in ways that aren't related to our talent for creative destruction, That's the real challenge. You're worried you'll disappoint us. I realized ourselves, he added. We have a complicated timeline, Trezax. For every achievement we celebrate, there's a darker chapter we struggle to reconcile. But that's what makes us human, the constant battle between our best and worst impulses. As our shuttle departed for Earth, where I would establish the first official galactic embassy, I gazed out at the stars with fresh perspective. The humans had saved us all, yes, but they'd accomplished something far more significant in the process. They'd reminded the galaxy that survival sometimes requires embracing the very qualities we fear: adaptability, unpredictability, and the willingness to fight beyond the bounds of reason when existence itself is threatened. The Vex Kari had encountered a universe of species that followed logical, predictable behavioral patterns. Then they met humans, a species that looked at the mathematical certainty of defeat and said, "We disagree with your calculations." Perhaps that was the true lesson of humanity. Not that they were dangerous, although they certainly were, but that they refused to accept limitations, even when those limitations appeared to be fundamental laws of reality. As we approached the blue-green world that had produced such a species, Ambassador O'Malley pointed to the warning beacons we were passing. Now deactivated but still in orbit. You know what's ironic? He asked. Those weren't just keeping us in. They were keeping the galaxy out. And sometimes isolation can be the most dangerous quarantine of all. How so? I asked. Because problems rarely improve when ignored, he replied. And potential allies can't help if you never call them. I thought about the Council's centuries of keeping humanity at arm's length and how close that decision had come to dooming us all. So what happens now? I asked. Ambassador O'Malley smiled, a genuine expression of hope that needed no translation across our different biologies. Now, he said, we see what happens when the most dangerous species in the galaxy decides to make friends instead of war. As Earth grew larger in our viewport, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The quarantine was over, humanity had joined the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again.